Hi, welcome to yet another episode of A Story for Your Queries. Today, I shall talk about empathy. Let's start with the story. A farmer had puppies which he needed to sell. He painted a sign advertising that the 4 cups are ready and set about nailing this particular sign on a post on the edge of his yard. As he was driving the last nail into the post, he felt a tug at his overalls. He looked down into the eyes of a little boy. "Mister," he said, "I want to buy one of your puppies." "Well," said the farmer, as he rubbed the sweat off the back of his neck, "these puppies come from fine parents and cost a good deal of money." The boy dropped his head for a minute and, digging into his pocket, pulled out a handful of change and held it to the farmer. "I've got this money with me. Is that enough to take a look?" "Sure," said the farmer. And with that, he let out a whistle. "Here, Dolly," he called. Out from the doghouse and down the ramp ran Dolly, followed by 4 little boys at the fence. His eyes danced with delight. As the dogs made their way to the fence, the little boy noticed something else stirring inside the doghouse. Slowly, yet another little ball appeared, and this one noticeably smaller. Down the ramp it slid, and then, in a somewhat awkward manner, the little pup began hobbling towards the others, doing its best to catch up. "I want that one," the little boy said, pointing to the pup. The farmer knelt down at the boy's side and said, "Son, you don't want that puppy. He will never be able to run and play with you like these other dogs would." With that, the little boy stepped back from the fence, reached down, and rolled up the leg of his trousers. In doing so, he revealed a steel brace running down the sides of his leg, attaching itself to a specially made shoe. Looking up at the farmer, he said, "You see, sir, I don't run too well myself, and he will need someone who understands." With tears in his eyes, the farmer reached down and picked up the little pup and handed over to the boy. This, ladies and gentlemen, is empathy. Empathy involves identifying with what someone is feeling and additionally actually feeling those feelings yourself. Empathy is learned behavior, even though the capacity for it is inborn. An attuned mother who is receptive to her child's needs and cues is the one who permits her baby to thrive and develop emotionally. Are sympathy and empathy the same? Sympathy is feeling for someone. Empathy involves feeling with them. Psychology today goes on to say people often use the word interchangeably, but they are separate processes. You can be sympathetic to someone while being completely clueless about his feelings and thoughts. Empathy involves identifying with what someone is feeling and additionally feeling those feelings yourself. Empathy, therefore, means experiencing someone else's feelings. Sympathy, on the other hand, means understanding someone else's suffering. Empathy happens when 2 parts of the brain work together. Neuroscientists say the emotional center perceives the feeling of others, and the cognitive center tries to understand why they feel that way and how we can be helpful to them. Psychologist Paul Ekman has defined 3 distinct types of empathy. They are cognitive empathy, which is purely a mental process in which one collects relevant information and deduces it from the emotional state of another individual. Emotional empathy, further to just being able to understand the reasons for a person's emotional state. One can internalize those reasons so that one feels what they feel to some degree. Compassionate empathy is the drive to offer our help and support to the person experiencing the emotion. How do we develop these feelings of empathy? First, turn your attention towards others, which involves active listening. For example, Avoid talking on the phone. Focus on the person. Pay attention to the person while talking. Don't interrupt, which is at times difficult. Validate their feelings. You don't have to offer solutions to their problems. Perhaps it's not the right time. You just have to let them know that you are there and that you understand. A hilarious incident which happened a couple of years ago. I had a fall on the road. A good Samaritan helped me to get up, but I was so shaken that I could not stand up. So I sat on the footpath, or the pavement as it is called. A lady comes along, looks at me and says, "Oh, did you have a fall?" Rhetoric, but I couldn't resist telling her, "Not at all, madam. I love sitting on the footpath." My reply was loaded with sarcasm for a question that did not show any compassion. Be open and vulnerable. People are far more open with someone when they feel they won't be judged. And by showing your vulnerable side, you are giving them the confidence to speak freely. Don't instantly dismiss opposing views. With cognitive empathy in mind, it becomes important not to simply dismiss views that you do not personally agree with. Put your views aside and comprehend theirs. Use your imagination. Empathy requires you to walk in others' shoes and understand what you're going through. This requires an element of imagination. Watch people. You can do this while sitting in the coffee shop, on a train, whilst walking down the road, or anywhere else where there are people going about their lives. Try to read a person's body language and facial expressions to figure out what might be going on in their head. Do they look sad, stressed, happy, exhausted? Act of helping is one of the best ways to build bridges and communicate. To conclude, let me narrate an anecdote. 5-year-old Krish came home late after play. His mother asked him why he was late. Krish replied that his friend's bicycle broke and he tried to help him to fix it. Mom asked again, "You don't know anything about fixing bicycles?" Krish replied, "I don't know anything about repair, but he was crying, so I sat with him." Sometimes not speaking also helps. Any questions that you have could be addressed to yourquerymystory@gmail.com. I shall try to answer it as quickly as I can. If the query is good, I might pick it up to feature in the broadcast. You may send your voice messages to Anchor or Spotify. That's all for today. Keep sending those messages. See you next Wednesday. Bye till then.